So it's clear that the Trump administration is dead set on facilitating a grave war crime, the forced displacement of the Palestinian population of Gaza. Let's listen to this clip of President Trump being asked questions by journalists in the White House.
Egypt's president and the King of Jordan have both said that they won't take in displaced people from Gaza like you suggested. Is there anything you can do to make them do that? I mean, tariffs against those countries, for example?
They will do it. They will do it.
What makes you say that?
They're going to do it. Okay? We do a lot for them, and they're going to do it.
Now, first of all, that question from the British journalist Danny Kemp, the White House correspondent for the AFP news agency, is a textbook example of media normalization of US-Israeli crimes and therefore complicity. What Kemp is referring to is forced displacement, which is a grave war crime. It is ethnic cleansing. But listen to how the journalist frames the question. He asked Trump about Egypt and Jordan, saying they won't take displaced people from Gaza like you suggested, and asked, is there anything you can do to make them do that? I mean, tariffs against those countries, for example. Now, I know Kemp's fellow journalists are defensive about this. Journalistic solidarity kicks in. Their view is, look at the answer he elicited. That's the story. Focus on that. Indeed, we will. But not before we discuss the normalization of war crimes. The Western media has normalized Israel's genocidal mayhem ever since it began 482 days ago. And here's a striking example of it. The premise of the question is about whether Trump could wage economic warfare against two countries so they can facilitate a war crime. Where are the journalists asking Trump whether he's aware that forced displacement is a war crime? Where are the journalists asking about ethnic cleansing? It seems utopian to even suggest journalists might consider asking basic questions like this, which speaks to the problem at hand. Maybe they fear they'd never be able to ask questions again. They'd be evicted from being able to do so. Well, if you can't ask meaningful questions and indeed feel you're unable to do so, other than, I don't know, the only thing you can do in this case is help normalize hideous war crimes, perhaps ask yourself if there's any point you being there in the first place anyway. Now, imagine Donald Trump had publicly committed to the forcible removal of the Ukrainian people from Ukraine and was trying to force Poland and Belarus and other countries to take them all. Would journalists really be asking Trump about whether he was going to impose tariffs on them and wage economic warfare in order to compel them to facilitate a criminal act of ethnic cleansing? Now, in terms of the substance of what Trump has said here, he's clearly committed to the ethnic cleansing of Gaza. What he said a few days ago to reporters on Air Force One, when he said Gaza was a demolition site in Egypt and Jordan would need to take people in order to clean out that whole thing, these were clearly not whimsical asides. Indeed, Israeli officials briefed Israeli television that these comments were coordinated with the Israeli government. With that in mind, let's turn to Steve Witkoff, the White House special envoy to the Middle East. He's just visited Gaza, or rather more to the point, what remains of Gaza. He's the first US official to visit Gaza in 15 years, itself a damning indictment which speaks for itself. He told the US media outlet Axios, what was inescapable is that there was almost nothing left of Gaza. He added, people are moving north to get back to their homes and see what happened and turn around and leave. There is no water and no electricity. It is stunning just how much damage occurred there. He then told them, based on what he saw, Gaza is uninhabitable. He added, there is nothing left standing, many unexploded ordnances. It is not safe to walk there. It is very dangerous. I wouldn't have known this without going there and inspecting. Not to be rude here, but really? Really? Could Witkoff really not have known any of this without going there? I haven't visited the apocalyptic wasteland Gaza was deliberately and systematically reduced to, but I really could have told him this in advance for free. Has he not watched the freely available footage of what Israel has been doing to Gaza virtually every day now for approaching 16 months? Has he not seen the videos of entire residential blocks being destroyed, or indeed of Israeli soldiers wiring up explosives to, say, mosques, schools, universities, then blowing them up? Did you not watch the footage of Israeli soldiers often laughing raucously as they blow stuff up for the hell of it, then post it on social media for public amusement? Was Witkoff not aware of what experts concluded in December 2023, after just 2 months of this carnage, that Israel had wreaked by then more destruction in that time period than the razing of Aleppo in Syria over the course of 4 years? or indeed Ukraine's Mariupol by Russian forces, or indeed proportionately the Allied bombing of Germany in World War II. That, as one of these experts stated at the time, Gaza is now a different colour from space. It's a different texture. Did Witkoff not see the UN estimates that about 70% of Gaza's buildings have been damaged or destroyed? Was he not familiar with the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs publishing a report this month estimating that 92% of housing units in Gaza were destroyed or severely or partially damaged? When the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres declared he'd never seen such a level of death and destruction as we are seeing in Gaza in the last few months, did Witkoff think he was exaggerating? Yeah, undoubtedly, the total ruin of Gaza when seen up close must be unimaginably shocking, even for those who've cheered on the crime. Many months ago, a Palestinian former journalist in Gaza I've regularly spoken to texted me. It was the early hours. I was in a bar in Dublin. Punters were drunk and merry. And this Palestinian former journalist said it was like being trapped in an end-of-the-world film. And the contrast between where I was and what he was enduring was itself a shocking jolt. Actually seeing the devastated ruins of what is Gaza now, a strip of land no bigger than East London, where Israel has detonated explosives with several times the equivalent firepower of the Hiroshima bomb, must be a salutary experience. But Witkoff must have known. He must have known the truth, because the devastating truth was there for anyone and everyone from the very beginning. How can the US Special Envoy to the Middle East not look at this utter apocalyptic devastation and not conclude a terrible crime has been committed? Does he really believe in his heart of hearts that there was a legitimate military target in virtually every square metre of Gaza, and that an attack on that, all those individual legitimate military targets, was proportionate to the military advantage gained, despite the civilian slaughter and suffering each of those attacks would cause? Of course he doesn't believe that. No one believes that fiction. Anyone who says that is a liar. A disturbed liar. Everyone knows Israel set out to destroy Gaza and inflict a terrible collective punishment on its people, because the Israeli state made that clear from day one. It is worth looking at some of the drone footage of what has been done to Gaza, though. The incredible, courageous Palestinian journalist Hossam Shabat posted this footage of Beit Hanun, which had a population of over 50,000 people before this genocide began. Take a look. Now, Steve Witkoff says it will take between 10 and 15 years to rebuild Gaza. What is very clear is that Israel's plan all along was to make Gaza inhospitable, so its population would be killed and those who survived would end up forced to flee. Indeed, according to a report in an Israeli newspaper back in December 2023, Benjamin Netanyahu ordered his top advisor, Ron Dermer, the Minister of Strategic Affairs, to come up with plans to, in quotes, thin out the Palestinian population in Gaza to a minimum. It was always clear what Israel was going to do because they said what they would do from the very start. The Western media normalized this abomination, and now they're going to normalize Trump's support for literal mass ethnic cleansing of Gaza. As ever, we have to document all of this because we have to hold the guilty to account and eventually to justice. Please like and subscribe, leave your thoughts and your comments as ever. All of that is good, of course, for the algorithms and more people will engage. And that's the point of all of this. Help us expand our operations, which we're currently doing at patreon.com/ownjaz84 to reach broader audiences. Listen to the podcast. I'll speak to you soon.